Monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition resembles a lot of real-life industries. Monopolistic competition, sometimes called imperfect competition, lies partway along the range of market structures between perfect competition and monopolies, although it should be pointed out it's nearer to the perfect competition end of the spectrum. In monopolistic competition, the conditions of perfect competition are relaxed slightly and instead become, as we're going to note, see on the screen. So there'll be some product differentiation, either due to advertising or because of real differences between products. This means the seller has some degree of price-making power, so each seller's demand curve will slope downwards. But it should be remembered that if all the products were identical as in perfect competition, the firm's demand curve would be perfectly elastic. It's perfectly horizontal. Okay. So, but the smaller the product differences, the more price elastic the demand for each product will be. So even within monopolistic competition, if the products are very subtly different, the more elastic will be the demand. So more closely it will resemble the perfect competition, perfectly elastic curve. There are either no barriers to entry or only very low barriers to entry with monopolistic competition. This means that if very high supernormal profits are earned, new entrants can join the industry fairly easily. These relaxed conditions are actually more typical of firms in real life. This means that the behaviour predicted in the model can also be more realistic. The short-run position is like a monopoly. In monopolistic competition, the barriers to entry and/or the product differentiation means that supernormal profits can be made, but only in the short run. The profit maximising level of output obviously occurs at MC equals MR. The diagram shows the output leading to the profit maximising price of P. This means the firm earns supernormal profit. Here, the supernormal profit is shown in the red rectangle. Also, I should point out the total costs are in grey. The total revenue is red and grey together, hence why profit is in red. It could be suggested that this is basically the same as for a monopoly, although because there might be similar substitute products available, demand is likely to be much more price elastic, as you can see on the screen. That is, the AR curve is much flatter. But the long run position is more like perfect competition. But unlike in a monopoly, the situation shown by the above diagram, that's where we've just seen the supernormal profit, doesn't last for long in the long run. Doesn't last in the long run. In monopolistic competition, the barriers to entry are fairly low, so new entrants will join the market. These new entrants will cause the established firm's demand curve to shift to the left, since the overall demand is now split between more firms. New entrants will continue to join, and the established firm's demand curve will continue to shift left until only normal profit can be earned. This is where P equals AR equals AC. At this point, the slopes of the AC curve and the demand, or AR curve, touch tangentially. That is, they meet, but they don't actually cross. This is shown by the red dot. At this quantity, MR equals MC. See the blue dot. Since the firm is not producing at the lowest point on the AC curve, the outcome is not productively efficient. And since the equilibrium price is greater than MC, this is not allocatively efficient. But despite this, a monopolistically competitive market will generally achieve much greater efficiency levels than a monopoly market. Prices in monopolistic competition are higher than in perfect competition. The short-run position of monopolistic competition is basically the same as in a monopoly. However, unlike in a monopoly, new entrants to the market will drive down prices until only normal profit is earned in the long run. You should remember, in a monopoly, The high barriers to entry and lack of substitutes mean that supernormal profits continue to be made even in the long run. So let's return to monopolistic competition. Exactly how long this process takes is important. That is, the move from the short run where supernormal profits are made to the long run where normal profits are made. How long that process takes is very important. If it takes a very long time, the market will resemble a monopoly. But if it all happens relatively quickly, then the market will be more like a perfectly competitive market. This is why firms are often willing to spend large amounts of money to try to differentiate their product, for example, by improving it or by trying to advertise to create a stronger brand. The longer a firm can retain its price-making power, the longer it can make supernormal profit. But unlike in perfect competition, in monopolistic competition, the firm is not producing at the lowest point on the AC curve. These different positions on the AC curve mean that prices in monopolistic competition tend to be higher than in perfect competition. This is because firms in monopolistic competition need to spend money on differentiating their product, for example, by advertising and creating brand loyalty. There is no need for advertising in perfect competition because consumers already have perfect information, that is perfect knowledge. And in perfect competition, all products are identical, they're homogeneous, so there's no product differentiation. Firms in monopolistic competition have also chosen to restrict output in order to maximise profits. This means they don't benefit from all the economies of scale that they could. Prices in monopolistic competition tend to be lower than those charged by a monopoly seller. Finally, it should be pointed out that generally monopolistic competition is felt to work reasonably well in practice. Monopolistic competition doesn't usually lead to dynamic efficiency. The length of time it takes for new entrants to force all firms in monopolistic competition to only make normal profit is the length of time an incumbent firm can make supernormal profits. These supernormal profits are a reward for risky production investment or product innovation. Production investment or product innovation. However, the lack of barriers to entry mean that firms are unlikely to invest huge amounts of money on new innovations. So there's likely to be less dynamic efficiency in a monopolistically competitive market. In the long run, the absence of supernormal profit will mean there won't be much money available for investment.